morning. Welcome to this message time. Welcome to this brief time that we share together. My glasses are crooked. Maybe my nose is crooked. That's probably more like it. It has been broken a few times, so I guess that's okay. It is what it is. We sit in our authenticity, don't we? So, good morning. We are, let's rewind. I am Reverend Rich, the proud pastor here at First UMC of Bellevue. And we are about to conclude our worship series for August that is entitled, we're not done with it yet, I've been meaning to ask. And in this, we are asking questions that foster connection and truth-telling and help us to discover a little bit more about who God is by discovering who each other are. So we have run the gamut of questions. We've had questions like, where are you from? Not just in terms of location, but questions about family of origin, spiritual family, and what that means for us today. We've had questions about where does it hurt and what do you need? And we conclude today with the question of where do we go from here? And I love this question. And I love it for a couple of reasons. I love it because, number one, I believe that Jesus was a futurist. I believe he had eyes on the future, and that drove everything that he did. It informed his actions and his parables. I think he was completely dedicated to building a better future for humanity. And so I think when we ask the question, where do we go from here? For as people of faith, as followers of Jesus, we should hopefully think about, well, where did Jesus want us to go from here? And what does it take to get there? Personally, when I hear that question, it excites me as well, because I like the process of creation. I like the process of building things, building communities, building teams. And I believe deeply in the power of possibility. And so when I hear questions about where do we go from here, some people might hear that as ominous, like there's a threat in there or some impending doom, but I hear it as a question of hope, a question of possibility. So I like this theme, but I will do my best not to talk for overly long. So at this point, I invite you to pause this video and grab your Bible, whatever version you like, doesn't really matter, and or just open up your browser and go to the book of Ruth and read chapter 1, verses 1 through 22. And I know 22 verses sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty quick. So it's an amazing story. So hit pause and do that now if you would like to. And then hit unpause when you're done. Ready? Go. Good job. Excellent. So this story is a story of Naomi and Ruth largely. There's some other characters in there, some other people in there, but Naomi and Ruth are the two main people, the central characters, as it were. Naomi is a widow, and not only has she lost her husband, but she's lost her sons and has two daughters-in-law, one of which is Ruth, and the other one is named Orpah. And as I recall, I could be wrong about this, but Orpah was who Oprah Winfrey was supposed to be named after, but they spelled it wrong, so she became Oprah. But Orpah was Naomi's other daughter-in-law other than Ruth. That was a very confusing sentence, but you know what I mean. So after her husband and her sons died, Naomi wanted to go back to her home. And her daughters-in-law started to go with her, and she didn't know what she was going to encounter as she returned to her homeland. And so she said, no, you need to go back where you're from. You need to go back where you're from. And at first, both of them said, no, we stay with you. And then they went a little further, and then Orpah kind of reconsidered, and Naomi said, you need to go back, and Orpah did. But Ruth stayed with Naomi and went back with Naomi and went back to Naomi's homeland. And as you read this story, number one, it's not an overly happy story. It's not one of those super feel-good ones, but it seems apropos, it seems appropriate for our time. If you look at the setting, there was a famine in the land, there was political discord, there was a lot going on that was unsettling for people. Obviously, it was at a time of great grief for Naomi and Ruth and Orpah, where they had lost husbands and father-in-laws and lost spouses. And so, I haven't met anybody in the last 2 or 3 years that hasn't been handed out or given their share of grief or encountered their share of grief, whether it be pandemic caused or caused by politics, or just because as human beings who are alive and in relationship, we encounter grief because we love people and we're in relationship. So it's a setting of trial, it's a setting of grief, it's a setting of challenge. And into that, we have this relationship between Ruth and Naomi. And Naomi's, she's doing right by her daughter-in-law. She's saying, don't come with me. I don't know what I'm going to encounter. It could be poverty. I can't give you another son. I'm too old for that. And even if I could, would you wait 18 years or 20 years until that son was grown to claim him as a new husband? And so she's trying to do right by him. She's a thoughtful person. But Ruth, who, obviously this book in the Bible is named after, makes this amazing covenant. She makes this covenant where she says, where you go, I go. And where you live, I'll live. Your people are my people. And God, your God, is my God. Where you die, I'll die. And that's where I'll be buried, so help me God. Not even death itself is going to come between us. And yes, if that sounds resonant to you, especially those of you who have been married, that is part of where our marriage covenant comes from. It's from this story, even though they were not spouses to be, that there is that sense of covenant, the till death do us part covenant. But if your ears were awake yet, if you've had your coffee, you would probably get the sense that what we hear in Ruth saying this has an echo of God saying it, that there is a promise, a covenant that's made that is one of fidelity, that's one of where you go, I go. No matter where you go, I will be with you. I will not leave you alone. And if you see over my shoulder, you'll see that I am a Liverpool fan. And I've been a fan during the bad years and a fan during the good years, and my loyalty to the Reds goes way back. And many of you know that the song that is sung at Anfield, their stadium, is You'll Never Walk Alone. It comes from a Broadway show, but it was also covered and turned into a popular pop song. And if you're curious about why it's a Liverpool song, look it up on YouTube. There's an amazing story and some amazing footage about it. But the song You'll Never Walk Alone, to me, is not just a cute little thing at the soccer stadium. It is a hymn. It's a powerful, powerful song about accompanying one another through the storms, through the grief, through whatever may be in front of us. Both good and bad. And so when we're asked the question, where do we go from here? I think the answer, at least the answer for today and for right now for us, is I don't know where we go from here. I don't know where we will end up. And because truthfully, none of us know that. I mean, we've learned these past few years that the world is very changeable. Who would have predicted 2.5 years ago, other than maybe a few scientists somewhere that everyone thought were crackpots, that we would encounter a pandemic that would reshape everything and just rattle the pillars of our institution. So, our various institutions, not just one. So we don't know what's coming. Where do we go from here? Well, we don't know. We have no idea what the future holds for any of us. It could be riches, it could be poverty, it could be fame and wealth and Maseratis and Lamborghinis. It could be the exact opposite of that. I mean, we just have no idea. We don't know if these beautiful, amazing bodies of ours are going to last another day or another week, another hour. Maybe they'll go on for a long time. We just don't know any of that. It's unpredictable. So when we ask, where do we go from here? I think the answer that's here for us today is, number one, we don't know. There by the grace of God go we. But the other part of that answer is, it doesn't matter where we go as long as we go together. As long as we are willing to make the promise that Ruth made to Naomi, then wherever we go, whatever roads we end up on, whatever roads we choose or are forced on, that we can give each other the gift of one another, the gift of fidelity, the gift of love, the gift of companionship. And as somebody who, has struggled in life at times, with mental health and bodily health, and, I'm a human, everyone struggles. That gift of somebody being with you is priceless. I've often wondered what our churches would be like if we were truly able to live into that kind of promise. So, one of, I think, everyone's fear is to end up alone, abandoned, homeless, without a place to be, especially in our vulnerable times, our vulnerable years. What would our faith communities be like if we were able to make true covenants that people would never be alone? That no matter what happens for you, I will take you in, I will care for you. Sometimes we make these kinds of promises to our family members, but what if we chose others to share that promise with? What would that do for your life to know that no matter what happens, should the bottom fall out of everything, that you would have a place to go? That feels pretty good, right? That starts to feel like I can relax into this moment because I know I'll be cared for. And as part of that relationship, I commit to caring for others. I wonder what that would feel like. I think, we pray the Lord's Prayer, and we often talk about on earth as is in heaven. I wonder if that's a piece of it. To know that you are cared for through the ups and downs and all of that. To know that you never walk alone. That would be a pretty amazing thing. And so I think the takeaway for us here today, thanks to this beautiful story of Ruth and Naomi, is that we can give each other a sacred gift. We can give each other a holy gift simply by being with one another, by walking with one another, by saying, where you go, I go. And as we do that, we help create some joy where there is pain, and we help alleviate grief by stepping into that space and being with people. So during this challenging time, maybe think about who you can make that kind of commitment to, and who you need to hear that commitment from. Know throughout all of that is the promise that God has made to us and to you, is that there is no place that we can go, absolutely no place where God's loving embrace, God's arms, for lack of a better word, not to anthropomorphize God, but that sacred embrace, there's no place to where we cannot feel that and be held by that. And so if you are struggling these days, know that you are held by God, and God is with you as well. So that's it from me. I am going to have another sip of coffee now, and I hope you are well. Remember, you never walk alone. Be excellent to yourself, be excellent to one another, and I'll see you next week. Blessings, friends and strangers. Bye.